Crazy lady breaks 3 PCs to avoid work before upper management will do anything about it. Disclaimer: this office was not at all cold. Nowhere near cold enough to need a space heater. There's always on lady that has to have one. First ticket for insane lady. Desktop keeps overheating and shutting down. I am behind on work and missing deadlines because of this repeating issue that has resulted in lost work. She had a space heater under her desk pointing directly at the desktop because her feet get too cold in the A-set office. I removed the unapproved heater, ran tests. The desktop was fine. Checked the event logs and it had only ever shut down crashed once from overheating. I explained that I only show one shutdown from overheating. Explain that you can't expect a PC to not overheat when heated. Made notes in the ticket. Delivered the space heater to facilities manager. She raised a big stink with her manager, who talked with the facilities manager and had the heater returned within facilities approval tag. They didn't involve me at all, and the unit was placed exactly back in same spot. Second ticket for insane lady. Very next day. Desktop is overheating again. I cannot continue to work like this. Fix it or replace my desktop with a laptop. I show up and see the heater right back where it was. MFW. What? GIF. Desktop is off, and actual hardware damage was done to the motherboard this time. I replace it with a spare desktop of same make model. I route all cabling and place desktop on desktop so it won't melt from space heater. She complains how the small form factor desktop takes up too much room on her double-sized cubicle desk space and she should have a laptop. I explain that I didn't have a laptop available, and it actually takes up less space than a laptop anyhow once you factor in docking station. I explain again that the space heater killed the previous machine, and it should not be placed next to a heat source. I CC her manager on the ticket. I also let my manager know about the whole deal at this point because both cases were totally avoidable. Third ticket for insane lady. 2 days later on a Friday. New desktop is overheating and shutting down just like last one. I am weeks behind on project work at this point. Please give me a laptop that won't have this type of problem. I show up right after the ticket was created. She was packing up her stuff to leave and looked put out that I even showed up so soon to deal with the issue. The desktop was on the floor next to the space heater. I ask her why she moved it back there after killing the previous desktop, and after clearly explaining that it caused the problem, she wasn't having it, said it took up too much room and she should have a laptop anyhow. This time the desktop wouldn't even post. I noticed the heater was on the highest possible setting and was aimed directly at the PC this time. There was something about how visibly annoyed she was that I was going to fix it, like she was ready to take an early weekend since she couldn't work anyway. I explained I would have a replacement ready within 30 minutes, more to gauge her reaction than anything, and she looked even madder. Is it going to be a laptop? I don't see a replacement being worth it if it's just going to melt under my desk again. I agreed. Under your desk is probably a bad idea. If she wanted a laptop, she would have to get her boss to approve the purchase of one. I took the dead desktop and brought back a replacement desktop. We got loads of spare used stock. Within 20 minutes, she was gone. CubeMate said she left for the day since IT wouldn't have a replacement ready anyhow. I documented everything in the ticket. Called my manager. Manager didn't seem to care at all. He did stress that I was not to give her a laptop replacement unless her debt approved and paid for it though. I was busy enough that this pissed me off. I walked over to HR and explained the situation so far to the HR rep. She said she would take to the user's manager about it. I didn't expect much. Sure enough, the following Monday, I had a ticket to deploy a brand new laptop to the user. Since the space heater was under the desk, and the way the cubicle desks were built, there was a space behind the tops for cable routing. This meant the majority of hot air from the heater would vent right up that space, which would feed directly into the air intake on the docking stations. Since that was the case, I deployed the docking station, laptop, etc. to the right of her monitor instead of the left where it would get hit with the heat. Once again she complained about it taking up too much room there. Can't we put it on the other side? I once again explained that heat will kill a laptop twice as fast as the 2 desktops she already killed. After closing out the ticket, I sent an email to her and CC'd her manager, my manager, and the HR lady. I explained the problems the space heater had caused. and that it was her refusal to listen that had caused damage to multiple pieces of company property. I let her know that moving the laptop to the other side of her desk would very likely damage the brand new laptop and it should not be done, and would result in further delays in her ability to finish her project. Fourth ticket from Insane Lady 2 days later. Laptop will not turn on. Leaving for the day. Please fix or replace. It was 10 a.m. on Wednesday. She wasn't there. Laptop was moved to left side of desk. Space heater still on full blast. Pointing backwards. Without touching anything, I called the facilities guy. He agreed that the heater shouldn't have ever been returned. Agreed that this woman could have burned down the whole goddamn building. Brand new laptop was toast. Took photos of everything. Emailed her boss. CC'd HR and my manager. Apparently her manager didn't even know she left for the day. She was 2 weeks behind on a big project. Kept blaming IT for messing up her schedule with PCs that didn't work. I pulled the drive, dumped all the data, was able to easily show she hadn't done any work for said project at all in the last month. Never saw an Inane Lady again after that. Much stricter rules were put in place for space heaters after that, so at least I dealt with less overheating issues. It's just frustrating that I could tell pretty quickly she was full of shit, but couldn't really do anything about it. What do you mean we told you to stop the backups? So a bit of background first. I used to be a shift team lead for a hosted outsourcing company that provided our own software on AS400-based systems to various financial institutions. Some of these companies were very small and only had a single box. Some were larger and had a pair of boxes, usually one serving as the live environment and one as the test environment. Others had more for different functions. Some did all their own development. Others paid us to do their dev and bug fixing work for them. One of the most important things we handled in the NOC was physical backups. Each box had its own backup schedule, where it would back up to IBM Ultrium tapes. Each morning, one of our tasks was to remove the tape from the previous night's backup, scan the barcode and send them off-site to our secure storage facility. Once that was done, we'd make sure that the scratch tape for the next scheduled backup was loaded and ready to go. This one company we dealt with had both a live and test environment, and had their own in-house developers. Initially they were both backed up nightly, but due to a cost-limiting exercise, the IT manager on their side submitted a change request to limit the test system to one backup per week, to be carried out on a Friday night. No problem. Amend the backup schedules, and update the documentation to reflect the change. All sorted. I wasn't there when all of this happened, but it was all included and documented on the shift handover report when our team took over, so we knew we didn't have to load tapes for this particular box until Friday. About 8 months later, we received a P1 ticket in the NOC from one of their developers. This happened on a Thursday afternoon. I'm sure you can see where this is going by now. Help! Library ABC 1234 on the test system was just accidentally deleted. Please can this be restored from last night's backup urgently? My tech who received the ticket confirmed with me correctly that they were now on weekly backups on this particular box, and the most recent backup we had was almost a week old. My tech relays this back to the end user in an email. The user calls back immediately. No, that's not good enough. If that's the most recent backup you have, that means we've lost almost a week's worth of critical work. I need to speak to your supervisor immediately. I duly took over the call. Your colleague has just informed me that you've stopped backing up this system daily. This is unacceptable. As I heard my colleague explain, the backup schedules are decided by your company, and as this was a test system as opposed to a live environment, the decision was taken on your side to reduce the backup frequency from daily to weekly. You need to speak to your IT department for clarity on this. I'll do that. You haven't heard the last of this. About half an hour later, another one of my guys gets a call asking to be put straight through to me. Yes, this is John Smith, the systems manager from Companies Is. I've just had an interesting conversation with one of my developers stating that you've stopped doing our backups that we're paying you to perform. Just for your information, this call is being recorded and I've got a conference call with our solicitors in 15 minutes whereby if this is not resolved satisfactorily by the time, we will be filing a lawsuit for the cost of our lost development work, and a recording of this call will be used as evidence. Wow, talk about aggressive. I explained to the guy that 8 months ago, Someone at their company submitted a change request that we reduce the backup frequency on this system from daily to weekly, and this was carried out as requested. Well, that's just insane. Nobody here would have done that. I need the name of the person who submitted the request as well as the person on your side who actioned the request without verifying that the request was received from an authorized member of our CAB. Okay. Well, I wasn't on shift when the change was made, but it will have all been documented on our ticketing system. Bear with me a second. Here we go. So the request was made on April 12th this year by a John Smith, Systems Manager. That's you, right? That's not right. There must be another person here with that name. You've got two John Smiths, both working as systems managers? Does that not get confusing? No, I don't recall asking you to do this. Well, we have the email saved to the original ticket, along with several emails back and forth where we asked you to clarify a couple of points, and also a scanned copy of the signed change form where you've written your name and signature. Did you want me to forward these over for your solicitors? Although I suspect you might already have copies of them if you check your sent items folder. No, that's fine, thanks. I'll let the developers know that you can't recover the file. That'd be great, thanks. Is there anything else I can help you with today, Mr. Smith? Click. Printed off the ticket and dug out a copy of the call recording to forward around to the team. And I added this to my training guides for new hires as an example of why documenting everything is critical. Always remember rules 1 through 10 of tech support. Cover your arse and document everything. Work mail never got shut down, and retired employee kept using it for years. He was not happy when it got shut down. TLDR. Former employee had been using a work mail as a private mail since he quit 5 years ago. I closed it and he wants his data out. I'm a Comp C student, and I'm employed part-time as the sole IT department for a small union. I've been working here for 4 months and the work is mostly just basic system administration, with some support every once in a while. So a short while ago I felt like I had pretty much gotten to the bottom of my assigned work. So I started looking at some of the things I wanted to do, specifically go through our users, and see if there are any who don't work here anymore. So I start doing that. I find some disturbing things. 2 former super administrators still active. Lots of people with access to our file server. Clearly my predecessors never removed people when they quit. So I work up a list, send it to my boss for approval to delete them. He says yes, go for it, and I delete away and do a happy dance. Fast forward 3 days. It's Saturday evening and I get a mail from the lawyer at work, apparently his former colleague, now retired. Let's call him Bob. Can no longer access his work email. And can I help with that? I look at it and figure if the retired employee can no longer access his work mail, that's good. And any response can wait till Monday. So Monday comes around. I write my boss that Bob would like to access his email to get some data out, because apparently he used it as a personal mail when he found out it didn't get shut down after he retired. My boss is appalled and answer what? Why is Bob still using that email? I was told his access was removed when he quit in 2018. Tell him it's absurd and not okay that he is still using that mail, and give him 24 hours to transfer his contacts. So I restore Bob's mail and get his new email from our lawyer, and I write him, in a slightly nicer tone, what my boss said. Bob answers, I don't know how to do that. Can you help me? And can I also keep my emails? Sigh. Sure, I can help, Bob. I just don't want to. So I asked my boss if he is okay with me doing work for someone not working for the organization, assuming he'll say no. But unfortunately he says yes. After all, Bob was a valued employee at one time, but he only gets to keep the emails he received since he quit working here. But I had an exam coming up, so I told Bob that he could do it himself, or wait for me to help him after the exam. With his mail closed in the meantime, Bob chooses to wait, so skip forward 4 days. I log into Bob's mail to download his data, and holy shit, Bob has 27 gigabytes of mail, 27, and 1,800 contacts. No wonder he wanted to get the data out. Looking at his folders, apparently he used to own a building and used this account to manage the leases. He used it as a photo album travel diary. He used it to pay taxes. He used it for everything. He clearly didn't understand that his was a work mail, as in you use it for work. So I moved everything he received since he quit into a folder, downloaded it and put it on a USB he could pick up at the front desk. I emailed him and told him he got the data he produced since he quit, where he could pick it up, and found a guide online I linked to as well on how to import the data, with my boss as CC. In my opinion, I was being rather nice, and Bob was lucky to get any mails out at all. Now boss is happy. No more unauthorized access and posing as our employee. I'm just glad it's over. But Bob is less happy. He emails me, "What about my personal mails from when I worked at organization? And can I call you if I have any problems?" Now I'm happy as I answered, "Your work email contains work mails, Bob. They're organization's property and you can't get them. And no, you can't call me Bob. I don't have a work phone, so you will have to submit a ticket. Seeing as you don't work for organization, you can't submit a ticket. Have a nice weekend." I don't know about Bob, but I did have a nice weekend afterwards. The office IT expert interrupts our IT meeting 3 times until I look at her computer. This took place about 20 years ago. I worked in the IT department of a national logistics company in Ireland. One of the office women often boasted about how she knew so much about computers, basically because she knew how to use Microsoft Office, and we humored her, because why bother destroy her confidence, right? As the IT department, we were having a meeting. It had just started and she interrupted by knocking and coming in. She said she had moved her computer to clean behind her desk or some other reason, and after plugging everything back in, she could not connect to the network. I told her to check the network cable was plugged in firmly. She insisted that it was. She knew that. I said okay, I will be there in 20 minutes when we're finished our meeting. She came back in a few minutes and interrupted again, asking me to come look at it because she had work to do. I told her there was a 90% chance the cable just isn't plugged in, but she claimed it definitely was. I said I'd be down soon. A third time. After only a few more minutes, she interrupted again, and the IT manager said to me, "Just go look at the computer for her or we will never get any peace." I was kinda annoyed she had bugged us until she got her own way. So I went down to the main open plan office where her computer was. The other 5 or 6 people there knew what was going on, so I asked her, loud enough for everyone to hear, "So you definitely checked that the network cable is plugged in?" She replied, "Yes, I already told you I did. I'm not stupid." I glanced at the back of her computer to see the network cable plugged into the back of the computer, then slowly pulled the other end up from behind it, to reveal it had just been sitting on the floor. I held it up in front of her and demonstrated, in the most obviously sarcastic way I could, the action of plugging the cable into the jack on the wall, and then walked off. She was so angry she started shouting at me as I walked away. She filed a complaint against me to the IT manager for making her look stupid. I didn't really get in trouble. He just laughed and told me to try be more patient with her. Actually, we got along well for the most part. But she annoyed me that day, not waiting for a measly 20 minutes while we finish our meeting. Made IT manager look bad in job interview. By mistake, I was in an interview at a small local meat processing plant, for a job as an IT tech. I would be reporting to the IT manager, their only IT guy, who was sitting in on the interview being conducted by the accountant. I was confident I could easily do the job, since it was simply a bunch of networked PCs throughout the plant. Stuff like PC stations at various points along the processing line, to scan enter progress of the meat at various points of the processing. Since my answers to their questions are all very satisfactory, the manager asks me, in the case of a computer going down, e.g. dead hard drive, how I would go about fixing it quickly to make sure the processing line is not down any longer than necessary. Apparently, due to regulations, the meat can't proceed to the next station until it is scanned at that station. Or something like that. And the whole line will be halted in the interim. I suggested that I would simply keep a couple of spare PCs on standby with the software installed and ready to go, so that you can easily swap it out with the faulty one and get the line back operational in 2 minutes. Then take the faulty one away and fix it at your leisure. Now, this is not exactly genius stuff, but the look on the accountant's face was one of amazement. He sat there with his mouth open. Then after a few seconds he glances at the IT manager, who looked at him with embarrassment. Then he turned back to his notes and started scribbling furiously LOL. Obviously this is some kind of revelation to them. With a puzzled look on my face, I asked, how do you guys handle that situation at the moment? The topic was quickly changed. I tried my best to suppress a cheeky grin. P.S. I was called back for a second interview, but declined at the time, for many reasons. 1. I'd be reporting to a guy, and getting paid less than a guy, who was less competent than myself. 2. I didn't like the pay or conditions of employment they were offering, which I only found out about in that interview. I always ask more questions than the interviewer, because I need to know if they are a right fit for me. Due diligence. User worked for hours on a multi-million-dollar contract and never once saved it. This was back in the mid-80s, when computers were just starting to be widespread in business. Autosave was a thing of the very near future, but not here yet. I was a secretary at a law firm and got transferred to the newly created IT department. I did training, setups, and troubleshooting, and I reported to a newly hired but experienced IT manager. One attorney was having a meltdown because her computer froze and she had been working all morning on a contract for a multi-million-dollar project. I said, no problem. We can do a reset and restore it from the last time you saved it. I should add here that everything was saved on each person's hard drive. She said she hadn't had time to save it, and kept screaming at me to get it back. Hadn't saved it, not once. A multi-million-dollar deal. Worked on it for hours. Didn't have time to save it. When I broke the news that there wasn't a damn thing we could do, I thought she was quite literally going to have a stroke. She was screaming so loud that someone called my boss, who listened to her spitfleck tantrum. When he heard her say that she hadn't once saved this oh-so-important document, he said, "You didn't save it. It's gone. What do you want me to do, Carol? Wave my magic wand to get it back? Get it back from where?" I love that man for that. To this day, I'm still astounded that this woman, who had 4 years of college, and another 2-3 years of law school, didn't have the common sense to save her work periodically as it progressed, and then screamed at people who were only trying to help her. So, you're complaining about being called out for violating cybersecurity protocols? 8. Greetings, y'all. It's time for another story from the cybersecurity realm. For those interested in cybersecurity, this may help change your mind. As a reminder, this happened on a military installation, so names, mission types, shoe sizes and inter-office romances will all be redacted. The cast in order of tree ring growth. $loser. The cause of our story today. $tech. Our plucky, cyber operations tech who's afraid of conflict. $supervisor. $loser supervisor whose competency I question. $newbievisor. My awesome supervisor who hasn't been a supervisor for more than a month. $lead. My awesome lead who recently got promoted to captain. It just means he won't get lost as often now. $me. Apparently I'm part pitbull, though I'm not much taller than a dachshund. $glue. A can of glue. We had our problem child. $loser. Today who was needing assistance with one of her machines. She'd contacted our cyber operations team, put in an incident request, surprisingly, and things started going downhill from here. Her description in the incident request was amazingly vague and completely useless for the $tech to try and resolve remotely, so he called to find out where her office was located, and where in said office she sat. After getting her location, $tech makes his way to her problematic computer, and upon his arrival, finds that she's not there. What he does find is much worse. Her office is a very sensitive office, dealing with information that is vital for our pilots. She'd left her desk while leaving her CAC smart card plugged into an unlocked machine, and she was nowhere to be found. It's not a very big office, and from $loser's desk, you can clearly see who's in this office as well as all the walls. $tech figured he'd give her a break and place her CAC underneath her keyboard. However, when he lifted the keyboard, he found a sticky note with a password written on it. $tech sighed to himself, gathered the CAC, left the office, and sought out his lead and supervisor who subsequently directed him to my office. $tech then spoke to my supervisor and lead, and after some back and forth discussion, decided that $loser needed to have a talking to. $newbie visitor and $lead had initially decided to go handle this themselves, but then decided to send the bald, half-deaf, thick-skinned, oddball from the back of the office, $me. $newbie visitor gave me clear instructions to be the professional bad guy in dealing with her. I asked for clarification, because I can be professional or I can be the bad guy, but I don't know how to do both. I was again reminded to be the professional bad guy. I still don't know what that means. With $Tech leading the way, we made our way to her office and desk. $Tech filled me in on what he encountered and was hoping that we could handle this. We get to her office, my first time there, and I noted that no one there has questioned who we are, or why we are there. Everybody there was working in those open-air cubes, meaning that nobody had any walls to block their line of sight to their other co-workers. We make our way to $loser's desk and $Tech shows me the password sticky that's affixed to the bottom of the keyboard. I take $loser's CAC, grab the sticky and $Tech informs me that he found $loser in $supervisor's office, with the door shut, mind you. $Tech turns to me and asks if he has to be here. He's got an expression on his face that he'd rather be anywhere than here. Given her history of trying to break people to her will, I tell $Tech to bounce out. Less than 2 minutes later, the door to supervisor's office opens and $loser steps out. Seeing me, she asked if I was waiting to speak to supervisor. I replied that I'm actually here to see her and her supervisor, and motioned for the two of us to step back in. I shut the door and proceed to explain that her CAC, unsecured workstation and password under the keyboard were brought to my attention. I reminded her of the cyber awareness training that we all have to take yearly. Those who know what I'm talking about. And asked her if she remembered the parts that stressed not leaving our workstations unsecure, leaving our CAC unattended, and writing passwords down in an easy-to-access area. $loser attempted to pass off the sticky, saying that nobody would know what the password is for or that it's even a password. I reminded her that leaving passwords out in the open is not only wrong, it's dangerous for the line of work that we do. At this point, $supervisor jumped to her defense, demanding to know who I am. In their defense, I did fail to announce who I am, and what office I work in. $supervisor thought he could get the upper hand on this conversation by declaring that they had no way of knowing who I was right off the bat and that I could have been a spy. I quickly put him in his place by telling him that nobody out in that office did anything to challenge my presence, or what I was doing at her desk. $loser tried to steer the complaint away from her and accuse me of not talking to her professionally and being aggressive, and that, in her words, I was treating her like a killer and a criminal. I told her that I've dealt with killers and criminals and that I'm being nowhere close aggressive to her. I also stressed to both of them that my office takes spillage seriously, and that this is what we have been tasked with handling by our director. I told $loser that if she has any comments, concerns or questions that she could take it up with $newbie visitor and $lead. Upon hearing $lead's name, her face took on a bit of a smirk and said that she will talk to him. I returned her CAC, but kept the sticky to properly dispose of the password in her office shred bin. $newbie visitor had bounced out for a meeting, so I filled $lead in on what I found and what was said, and wouldn't you know it, less than 10 minutes after I'd returned to my office, she's ringing the doorbell. $lead gets the door and allows her to vent about her perceived treatment from me, going so far as to say that she didn't like the way I talked to her. $lead paused for a moment, and said that in the end it all comes down to her not following the outlined procedures. He went on to say that despite how I allegedly talked to her, everybody in our building is responsible for security and that it's concerning that her office is taking a rather lax approach to it. $E then told her that he would talk with $newbie visitor about their office to determine if an audit is warranted. $loser had the balls to ask $lead if he was going to talk to me about how I handled the situation. $lead had the best response. No, I sent him up there for a reason and it got the results I was looking for. $loser thanked $lead for his time and left in a huff. A while later, $lead and I got $newbie visitor up to speed on everything and it was determined that no audit will take place, but he will bring up the issue to $supervisor and possibly the director. Some days, This boring job gets to be a bit of fun. Still makes me wish I had disabled her account and forced her to retake the cyber awareness training. TLDR, you're probably wondering how the can of glue fits into all this. I knew you'd get stuck on that. Why did you tell him that? From my days as a cash register repair guy, drove out to repair a cash register at a mini-mart in a popular beach town. They had a service contract and 2 cash registers, so I didn't expect any drama. One of their registers had just stopped working in the middle of a shift. The drive out there takes about an hour but is gorgeous, so I'm in a good mood when I get on site. I do the normal troubleshooting and find that the lights are on but nobody's home. Machine has power but isn't accepting any user input. So while I am troubleshooting, the 2 cashiers are trading off on the one working register, and the owners, a husband and wife couple, are deflecting Karens. I pop the cover off and immediately see the problem. In fact, I may have even uttered the immortal, "Well, there's your problem." I turn to the owner and say, "Looks like someone spilled into the keyboard. Looks like coffee with cream and sugar." Immediately I hear, "Why did you tell him that?" My head snaps to my left and I see cashier number 1 with her hand over her mouth and eyes white as saucers. She then ran out of the shop and cashier 2 and the owners burst into laughter. Okay. Turns out that cashier 2 drinks his coffee black like all truly good people. The owners drink tea, but I'm open to alternative lifestyles. Only cashier 1 drinks coffee with cream and sugar. Apparently she had done the deed, but rather than fess up, she was hoping the problem would either go away on its own or not be traceable to her. My detective skills had convicted her of the crime. Fortunately, the coffee never made it to the electronics and I quickly replaced the keyboard matrix and retuned the machine to service. Felt kinda bad about having to charge them because spills were not covered under their contract. As I was leaving, I saw the owners escorting the most hangdog-looking cashier back into the store. She was still there the next time I serviced the site, so I suspect her only punishment was a healthy dose of embarrassment. Edit to thank you for the award. Absolutely cannot type or even know what words are. We have multiple W@H users that log in with a generic local account, then connect to our systems via Citrix. We have no software available for remote support, so everything I do is blind. Every PC has the same local account and I include a printed 2-sentence login guide. Here's a call I had last week. The user was a native English speaker, so there was no language barrier. The user also didn't sound intoxicated or otherwise medicated. And yes, drugs and alcohol are a problem sometimes for our at-home agents. Also, we are a call center, so we literally have people who are drunk taking calls on behalf of our clients. User, this PC is broken. It's not letting me log in. I follow the instructions exactly and it won't let me log in. Me, okay, let's step through this. Please enter local name. Once you have that, enter the password. User, it still won't let me in. I typed my email address. Me, you don't type your email address anywhere. In the user field, enter local name. User, same result. Me, do you have a cell phone so you can take a picture of what you typed? User, sends me a picture. Me, I can see that for the username you typed your email address again. Please just type what it says on the guide and what I'm telling you. It's not your email address. It's local name, where you have your email address entered. I need you to type local name instead. We go through several iterations of this. The call lasted for about 10 minutes. Sometimes she typed her email address. Sometimes she typed the password for the username. Sometimes it was something random. No matter what I did, I couldn't get the user to type local name. The closest she got was Kindoft local name. Me, we're going to need to call you back to take care of this. At this point, I just referred it to the user's supervisor. Apparently they were able to get her to log in finally and she somehow remains employed. How about now? Working cable internet tech support some years ago, handling escalations from upset customers. I get an agent telling me that he needs a supervisor because a customer is shut off for non-payment, but says he doesn't believe it, insists it's a technical issue. I mean, seems straightforward, right? If the agent tells you it's because you didn't pay your bill, the odds are they're probably correct, but apparently he's just in some form of denial about it. Okay, send the caller to me. Me, okay, so I can clearly see here, it's been XX days since your bill was last paid. You're definitely disconnected for non-payment. It's just handled with a simple software thing on our end though. So if we can get a payment now, I can have you back online within minutes. No, I know that's not the problem. It's something else and you guys need to fix it. Now, while this has been going on, I've double-checked the dates, payments, provisioning status of the cable modem. There's no question at all, 100% non-payment. Sir, I'm really sure about this. Our system is very clear about it, and I've double-checked everything to make sure there were no mistakes on the software end. Are you talking about a payment you sent but we didn't register on your account or something like that? No, I know I'm not shut off, because my TV is still working. Every time I get turned off for a late bill, my TV goes out too, and since it's still on, I know that's not it. Are you still so sure now? This was said with all kinds of attitude and sarcasm behind it. That's odd. You're right. In that case the TV shouldn't be working. I check, and yes, his cable boxes are still provisioned to active. They shouldn't be. That part is a software glitch, but I didn't think to check that before. I just looked at internet-related things. So then yeah, you tell me how you're so sure it's because of my bill because I'm watching TV right now? More attitude and sarcasm. Well, reader, here's where we get to the title of this post. It's 2 mouse clicks on my side. How about now? It just went out. You just did that. You did it on purpose. Yes, I did. You told me you were getting service you weren't supposed to be getting. I fixed it. That's what they pay me for. Would you like to make a payment now? And that's where they hung up. Disclaimer, because not everything carries through text. I have all kinds of sympathy for those that have difficulty paying their bill. Most of us have been there. I don't have sympathy for those that blame us for it, or treat us like crap because of it. Weekend tickets are a different breed. This is a 100% real ticket I just worked. I handle central remote support for a healthcare org. Ticket title, website, ticket body. Working, clickable URL link to internal website. I need help finding this link on the intranet. Thank you. Username. Phone number. That's the whole ticket. No other information. Reach out to user over IM. Me. Hi, user. This is Ekaman in IT. I wanted to reach out about the ticket you sent in. For internal site, what is the issue you are having? From what I can tell, the site is up and functional. Cell phone number is my if you'd prefer to call. User. Hello. I am unable to find it. I just received permissions to be able to use it, but I don't know where to find it. Me. What do you mean? Click the URL? Copy-paste the URL provided in the ticket by the user into IM chat. User. Thanks, I will add to my thoughts. Me. You're welcome, Bob. This is the 4th time this month. Many years ago I worked at the help desk for an office with 600 plus staff members. Once a week I got a call from Bob, who was a director of a small, yet mission-critical department. Bob was a frequent caller for various reasons, but recently he only called for one reason. I forgot my password. Can you help me? I'm late for an important meeting. Each of the first 3 times I reset his password to something silly like Snickers Jan-25 with an expiration of single use. I don't know what came over me, but the 4th time he showed up in person, but with the same sob story. Well, I lost my manners and professionalism. I told him that I would change it, and I wrote down "I am for grateful" on a sticky note and stuck it to the soda he had in his hand, turned my back and walked away. The next morning he was at my desk when I arrived. He apologized for being an absent-minded idiot. His words, not mine. He also came bearing a Snickers bars for each reset I had done. He figured it was my favorite based on the previous temporary passwords. In the rest of his tenure with the employer, Bob never forgot his password again. Name of individual changed to protect the guilty. Name of candy changed because I don't want to give away all of my secrets. Edit. Bob and I had a good working relationship, and he knew that if I was in a bad mood like that, it was bigger than him forgetting his password. Part of why he was there the next morning in person was to make sure I was okay. He also knew that a project we were both involved in was in a bad place that day. The important meetings that he was always rushing off to were to try and salvage that project. We had a laugh about the new password, and he said he felt bad for forgetting so much and that it was because of stress. Thank you for watching. Daily uploads.